Hi, I'm Dan Looker, business editor with Successful Farming Magazine, and with me today is Steve Johnson, farm management specialist for Iowa State University Extension, and we're going to be talking once again about the Farm Bill programs. Steve, why don't we recap a little bit the main programs that people are going to have to be looking at over the next few months?
Sure. We call this the ARC PLC programs. So there are two different ARC programs. They're both revenue-based. One is called County ARC or ARC-CO. The other is called Farm ARC or ARC-IC. They will use both yields and prices to calculate benchmark revenues. And again, a farmer, landowner that signs up for this program will have some information that they're going to have to discern before they ever sign up. The third choice is PLC, and we're making these choices by farm serial number. PLC stands for price loss coverage.
And that's like the old target price program.
That's right.
It now uses something called a reference price.
That's right. So ARC is a revenue-based program. PLC is a price-based program. And then in addition,
there's a new component.
Yep. The new component is really how we're going to calculate the potential benchmark revenues. Let's look first at the County ARC program. The County ARC program is going to be 85% of base acres, but notice that the Farm ARC program is 65% of base acres. What's the difference, Dan?
Well, obviously about 20%. And also, you have a little more flexibility with the county program. You can sign up one crop for that, another for the PLC, but as I understand it with the farm, it's everything.
That's right.
Or
You
at
have
least
to
the
combine all
crops.
commodity crops on that farm. They're both going to use the 5-year Olympic average yields, county or farm, and they're going to use the 5-year Olympic average, marketing year average price, Olympic average, throw out the high and throw out the low, a 3-year simple. Multiply yield times price to calculate a benchmark revenue, multiply that number times 10%, and that's the maximum potential payment that could be made under that program. The last program, that one that we call PLC or price loss, has in addition to that SCO, supplemental coverage option. That's crop insurance. That is brand new, never been rated, all right? We've not seen the premiums on that yet. So somebody that signs up for PLC can also buy SCO beginning in 2015, including the fall seeded crops. So we should be seeing some more information about the premiums on at least winter wheat, I think, in late June. And then regardless of the decision that you make, just understand that which program that you choose by FSA farm serial number, you can also keep the historic base on the farm, or you can reallocate base acres, and we'll use the years 9 through 12. Enrollment, we think, will be in the winter. So by late fall, most everybody should be up to speed and understanding ARC or PLC, but we're also going to have the interacting factors of updating potential farm yields and reallocating base acres. Then it's a one-time decision. It's unanimous. Both the operators and the landowners have to agree, and it's irrevocable, which means that it lasts all 5 years.
One point I'd like to add too, if everyone isn't on the same page, if there's no agreement, you're not in the program for 2014.
That's right. That farm's not in any program for 14, and it defaults into the PLC program beginning in 2015.
Okay.
So I think it's important to understand what I call our PLC overview, but it's also important to understand the prices.
Can we go through exactly how those Olympic averages are calculated?
Sure. We'll use the last 5 years, marketing year average price. It's the weighted average cash price. We'll look at the years 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. We don't know what the final cash prices are for 13, or what we call the 13-14 marketing year, but we'll use 465. That was the May 9th WASD report, the midpoint. We'll use 1310 for soybeans. We'll throw out the high and throw out the low. That's that Olympic average. It's a 3-year simple. And notice that there's a plug, is that these annual marketing year average prices can never be below what we call the reference price. and that's 370 a bushel corn. So even though you see 355 on the screen, that plug's actually 370, but it is the low
So
of
it was
those
thrown
5 years.
out.
So we throw that out.
But in the future, towards the end of the 5-year farm build, the
Might be-
370 might be important.
Might be important.
Yeah.
3-year simple average, again, those calculations. As of May 9th, we'll have to update these as we see WASD, about $5.35 a bushel corn and $12.30 a bushel soybeans. Remember, ARC uses yield times price, but that's how you calculate price on the ARC programs. PLC, simple reference price, 370 corn, 840 beans, 550 wheat. Thoughts on those prices?
They're not very high, are they?
It'd be hard to trigger a PLC payment, especially in corn and soybeans. I got to believe it's going to be hard in wheat this year. And so,
But when you look at that, it looks like the ARC program may be in the money for corn.
I would say right now, based on the information that we have in front of us, probably easier to trigger an ARC payment than it would be a PLC payment, and probably county ARC has an advantage over the farm ARC. Let's take a look at just kind of an overview, stepping back. Again, I think that it's important that your viewers be able to separate that ARC is a revenue-based program, yield times price.
Right.
Kind of feels like crop insurance, if you would.
Right.
That PLC is a price loss only. You've got to have the national average cash price, the weighted average, for 14-15 crop below 370 corn, 840 soybeans, 550 wheat, or there's no payment associated with it. So I would encourage, again, what will the cash prices be, not only in 14-15, each of the next 5 years?
Yep.
I mean, if you truly believe that we're going to be above 370, we're not going to trigger PLC, then you're likely going to an ARC.
Right, and this is an annual marketing average. It's not a harvest low.
That's right. It's not a futures price. It's not what we use for crop insurance purposes.
Low average,
Yep.
on average for the entire year.
So I think a lot of the Corn Belt, especially corn and soybeans, are going to see there are no payments on PLC, at least likely for 14-15, but there's a potential for ARC payments in 14 and 15. ARC has an attractiveness to it, but when we look at PLC, I think it's not only the fact that we're going to spend a lot of time, potentially, with low prices. There's another interacting factor. It's the SCO product. People might go ahead and go to the PLC program at the Farm Service Agency just so they can buy SCO, especially if they're not buying 80 or 85% level of coverage. Or think about the base acres. Maybe they're planting a lot more acres on a farm, that then they have base acres that'll be reflected in an ARC or PLC program. What might be some strategies? By midsummer, we anticipate that most of the landowners and the operators would have received a letter from their FSA offices. We can see that information that we think they'll be providing on a form that we call FSA Form 156EZ. I wouldn't encourage people to go to the FSA office. They're busy right now with acreage certification. But
they'll be mailing that out.
That we now read that will be mailed out late summer. So don't throw away things. Start a new file like we do called the 2014 Farm Bill and start to fill it up with the information.
Sounds good, Steve.
So again, I think that base acreage reallocation is the first step. Keep the information that's coming from the Farm Service Agency. Open up the lines of communication. By late summer, we're going to see university calculators. I know we're working on our calculator at Iowa State. It'll have a drop-down county yields. There'll also be a national calculator and a national help desk.
Great.
And so people will be able to dial in a 1-800 number. They can put that information, but you're going to have your farm's yields. If you're going to compare, again, a PLC program, you're going to need your farm's yields. If you're going to use the Farm ARC program, you're going to need your farm's yields. We think the farm yields will probably be 2008 through 2012. The plug will be 75% of the county average if you cannot provide actual yield information for your farm. And then next winter, that's when we think the ARC PLC sign-up will actually take place at the Farm Service Agency. About the same time, a lot of the Corn Belt will be making crop insurance informations and the consideration of SCO in 2015 for your spring planted crops.
Sounds good, Steve. And I'd just like to put in a plug for the extension work that Steve does and many others do, and I think it's important, in addition to using those online calculators, to try to get to at least one meeting sometime this fall or winter to help decide which program you'd like to sign up for. And we'll be back as well to talk more about the more details. Talk to you again.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.